Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from 221B Baker Street, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pinellas Palace in the Xtreme Studios. Of course, that's a little, what would we call that? Fancy term there, Professor Pixel, young 20-something joining me here, ladies and gentlemen. Code switching, when I go from one type of language to another, although some people think that's a racial-only term. Well, we might break into a little bit of a British accent tonight. We're continuing our Granada TV series, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Jeremy Brett with the Norwood builder. And I got to tell you, coming off of the Greek Interpreter last week, a really great episode. Not necessarily fun, but very, very good, especially getting to see Sherlock Holmes' smarter, older brother. And no, I don't mean the Mel Brooks film. I was curious what we would get today because I feel like a little bit, technically the second season of this show, they're trying to broaden a little bit the world around what we see Sherlock in, not just confined to a cube. Some of the great set pieces they have. We get a lot more outdoorsy stuff. And here in Norwood Builder, it starts off with an evil, contemptuous-looking woman, and then we have a fire burning, and we have some other stuff going on. But I'm going to be honest here with you, Pixel, and I want you to kind of give me your first impression and take us in. This episode is SLO, slow. Not bad, but slow, as in sleep-inducing. I think out of all the episodes to this point, this one takes a while to get going, in my opinion. Not that it's not bad at the end, but it's one of those. What do you think?
No, it's disappointing.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. No, absolutely not. Because listen, I love this. So this opening, I think, is rather poorly done. Like, even with that shot of that woman who just looks like she's had misery all her life, just staring across at the property that's burning. And
I thought she was like an evil witch going to get burned alive by the villagers because she's in some satanic cult. And with the fires, I'm like, this is kind of evil the way they start out. Another opening gambit in a way.
But I think how they shot it is just done poorly. Like, I don't know. It just didn't invoke anything in me. I was more intrigued by the young man that's badgering Mrs. Hudson. I must see Mr. Holmes immediately.
Yes.
But he has a great introduction as soon as Holmes gets there. I'm so sorry. Listen, I am the unfortunate John Hector McFarlane.
Yeah.
I love this guy's performance.
No, you're right. This guy did a very good job. He looks young and all that, but he seems mature and all. I have no idea who the guy is. Don't really care. But yeah, he popped off the screen a little bit.
Yeah. So they go ahead and they go inside because absolutely Holmes is intrigued. And he listens to just the very beginnings of his story, and that's when Lestrade goes ahead and arrives with the constables to go ahead and take him away. But
first time I think we've seen Lestrade, if I recall.
Huh?
We had Scotland Yard last episode. I think this is the first time we've seen Lestrade so far.
I'm
gonna say yeah, even if I'm wrong, because that's all I remember right now.
Yes, you are correct. But it's not his first time playing Lestrade. Apparently,
well, that's irrelevant.
Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. I take it back. Anyway, yes, Lestrade, there's history there. But Sherlock says, well, please, a half hour won't make much difference. He's not going away from you. Why? Please permit me to hear the story. And so he goes ahead and starts explaining. He was reached out to by a Jonas Oldacre, who apparently was an old flame of his mother's. And he wants the young John Hector McFarlane to go ahead and finish writing up his will. And he's leaving everything to young Mr. McFarlane. And of course, he's confused. Like, why would you leave it to me? Well, I have an old soft spot for your mother, and hearing that your father has perished recently, I'm an old bachelor. I have nobody to leave it to, so I want to leave it to you, good boy. John is flattered, really. So what does he do? He goes ahead and immediately he does as he's asked. He writes it up and goes to the estate later that day. his description of it is fantastic. He goes ahead, and I walked into the property, wild, beautiful. It felt like it had no love at all. It's haunting. I love it. And he has this cane that belonged to his father's that it's taken with his hat and it's set aside. Walks inside, speaks with Oldacre. Everything goes smoothly. He leaves and stays in the hotel, and he doesn't hear until the next morning. Apparently, old Mr. Oldacre's dead. He's died in a fire.
D.E.D.
And who
dead.
is the prime suspect? Oh, it's John Hector McFarlane.
Womp, womp, womp. But he knew that. The setup here is really interesting to me. The two things that really come immediately to mind when we're watching this isn't the burning stuff and the lady looking on despondently or whatever, or evilly or whatever. But we'll talk about that scene towards the end, how they framed that at the beginning. Because we normally don't get gratuitous violence early on like we did here. I think that when he goes into Sherlock mode, just watching... gesticulate is the real fancy ass term for your hand gestures and just your gestures and your body language and stuff. And he really amps it up here just with the way he spins while the guy's talking, puts his right hand in his pocket, and he goes to sit down and he moves the bit part of his cape back. He's really put on a performance here. But while that's going on, to your point, this young man who was acting in here telling the story, there's the one thing that strikes me about some British shows, and honestly, I know you watch more of the more recent stuff than I do, unless they're period pieces and have good actors in them. I don't think this necessarily applies. And, people may say differently, but I'm going to go on the record for this. I think there's a way you can write smartly and effectively, but also have very intelligent, condensed writing. You get a lot of that in Sherlock, not just when he's showing off, bragging and describing something about, well, how did you see this? Well, because of this and that, blah, 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 and this I deduce. Okay, that's the Sherlock thing we get. But here, the guy telling the story, he's packing a lot of information without going into mansplaining or character splaining or any of that kind of stupid ass shit that you see today where people just kind of read the script in front of you to inform the audience. It's very organic feeling. This is a very tight introduction here because, again, the guy's like, I know I'm going to get arrested for this. You have to believe me. I didn't do it. I knew of you. I came to you. And the guy's very humble about it. He's humble about this inheritance. He knows he's in trouble. It's rare for a young man to be put in that position, but as we see in the backstory there with him and his boss, he's a diligent worker. I mean, it makes sense. We know something's not right because we're cynical adults here, but we don't go, oh man, that's bullshit. It makes sense. Oh, the guy had a thing for his mom or whatever. He's got nobody to leave it to. Might as well leave it to the guy that is setting him up and taking care of him. Why the hell not? Children automatically think they deserve everything their parents earn. No, there's nothing that entitles you to that all legally or whatever necessarily. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But again, a lot of these stories go back to classes here in Britain, and we're dealing with somebody who's done very well. And what I thought was interesting also too is, I mentioned before we had the voiceover you did last episode in The Greek Interpreter, where we see Watson seeming like he's getting a little bit more screen time or a little bit more talking time. Here, I like how he's kind of in the middle of two people. He does such a great job of doing that in here that it's really nice. And when they sit down there and they go to talk to people and they talk to the lady that he was sweet on and all that, she's a beautiful middle-aged lady and all that too, very elegant kind of look. And these set pieces are so good. God, the way they dress, the details, just the hair not being on the collar, you don't see invisible tattoos, unless they're sailors like in episodes, but just the rooms and the plants and the lighting, it's just phenomenal stuff. And it's really just a pleasure to watch, like the clock on the mantles or whenever you go into rooms. They don't just look like they're an afterthought, like you're watching a stage play. That's the beauty of it. You really feel like you're in the room with them. But again, they're talking about everything. And it's interesting because you see where I think the episode takes a more serious turn where they split up, where he's like, no, I'm going to stick around here a little bit while, Watson seems like, hey, we can go get some information and da-da-da. And he goes to get in the cab and he's like, no, I think I'll stay a little bit. This is cool. But when Sherlock and Lestrade go into the room where the supposed murder take place, I'm telling you, the way Jeremy Brett does, like his hands not touching the carpet. I mean, it's like, oh, come on, man. But it's so good. It's so fun to watch. And the intensity that he does it is believable. You don't feel like he's being a goof like Will Ferrell. You know what I'm saying? That's what's starting to suck me in the episode is when he's doing the actual investigating, because otherwise it's just a lot of talking about what happened rather than them doing the investigating and detecting kind of stuff here too. So the nuances on his face, especially when Lestrade is involved. I gotta say this: Lestrade is known as a guy that's supposed to be like a foil of Sherlock. I go, no, he represents your typical government entity. Hey, everything points to this guy. I don't care if it's what we call circumstantial. They don't use that word. It's basically right, but you know what? I'll let you talk to the guy. I'll let you have a few minutes and you're looking. Lestrade doesn't have to do that. He could be a dick. I don't think he's necessarily egotistical here yet. So it depends on your version of how he is in the books, which I know you've not read, versus how you're used to seeing him and thinking of him here. I had no problems with it. I actually thought it was pretty good because what it does is if we think of Sherlock as the superhuman person in here, all these things that work against him and his ability to do it is nice to have. And I think Lestrade was very well done in this episode, kind of being that thing that gets in our way. You know, sometimes they do it artificially. We always talk about, I'm ranting here a little bit because it's really obvious the way they do the storytelling. You could take Alfred Hitchcock and they'll sit there and say, oh, we're going to show you the bomb and give you the time or so. You automatically get kind of freaked out and then you want the characters to do it. You build up the tension here. Here, it's, shit, this guy's arrested. Something's going to happen here. I can't figure out what's going on. I've looked at all the information. And what he says to Watson, this is when it really starts getting better, which is in the third act, is, well, you know, all the evidence, my brain points to one thing, but in my heart, I feel like it's totally different. We haven't gotten it yet from Sherlock. That's when it started becoming an interesting episode to me.
I like that scene. I do. At this point, I figured out the mystery. And so
Did you? Soon, what made you figure it out?
As soon as we had the scene with the mother, I knew.
Yes.
I knew immediately.
Yes.
It's just bones. It's just bones.
They never found the body.
Who's the body?
Yep.
But I knew immediately what it is. And Sherlock, after that point, goes ahead and they go back to the property, and where the cane would have been, they found a thumbprint. And Sherlock tells Watson, listen,
hey, bro.
I know for a fact because the thumbprint wasn't there yesterday when I and so they have, I need your men to go grab straw and go ahead and set it on fire, please. I have buckets of water ready. And then all good voices, come on, all together now, fire, fire. And it's terrible. This reveal is terrible. I'm sorry.
It is. It's the worst one. It's very lackluster.
It opens and you just kind of It's what? I knew he was alive. I knew he had to be. So
what we hear from the lady who was sweet on, she's like, there was some interesting stuff in here because we don't get a flashback of what their relationship was. He had liked her. They were even engaged at one point, but she's like, no, he's a bad dude. He's an evil man. He's very whatever, like an asshole. Yep. And so the thing is the picture he had sent her a picture that was like her gift to him, and it was kind of like all like, you know, like the psycho killers when they cross out your eyeballs and they chop you up and slice the photo ones. Yep. It was kind of like that. And I'm like, that's kind of lame.
Yep.
But I get it. But okay, we're supposed to believe. But you're right. It's very obvious that when Sherlock stays there and he goes, Watson, I believe she's holding something back a great deal. I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to stick around and find out. You're like, okay, she's in on it because she's the lady that's in charge of the house. She's going to know what's going on. She's the one we saw at the window looking down at the very beginning. So yeah, you're right. When Lestrade comes in and Sherlock, it seems like he had an idea of it. We see him kind of staying on the grounds there a little bit at night, kind of going incognito a little bit and drinking at a bar with the bomb. This is kind of weak. I like him doing it.
I loved it. That's one thing I could say. I loved that scene because they had to explain the body. They had to. Yeah. Because they can't tell by the bones, so they had to explain the body somehow. So him going ahead and talking to another bum. The problem is that after this scene, you have the follow-up, oh, I have a feeling that it's over. It's doomed to Watson. When you just learned a pivotal piece of information to build your case upon. What are you talking about?
Yes.
That's where the disappointment lies. Because I don't think any performance is poor or anything. I think the reveal is poor because it's just stupid. It really is one of the most stupid things I've seen in this show, and it's just a little bit infuriating. You go ahead, you find out that there was a bum that went there multiple days, and finally he just disappeared. And now you're grieving because, oh, I have a feeling I'll need your moral support, Watson. No, put this before you have the energy to go ahead and find out your key piece of information. Sorry.
Well, and the thing too is to kind of sweeten the pot there at the end, and maybe I missed this, but he pulls up, a piece of, I think it was a shark's tooth or whatever like that sailors might have, kind of like as a trophy or whatever. Because obviously, Britain had a big fleet too, as well as Spain and a few others. There, big naval power and all that. So we see a lot of naval-based stuff, plus their imperialist expansion across Europe over the centuries and everything too. We had the Greek interpreter last week. We had something about the East India Company, I think, in one of the episodes, or at least a reference with the naval treaty was an earlier episode. So I just don't remember that. Maybe I missed that when they were going through the ashes and stuff, but he pulled out there. I'm like, man, do I not remember that? I thought I was pretty observant.
Wait a minute. Oh my gosh. Are we sure that, because I don't remember him grabbing it from the ashes either. But what I do remember is when he's sitting there with the bum and he's poking through the fire that had been set.
Yep.
He notices something. And
that must be, that's it. And we just don't see it.
Basically, he's set him up. I mean, he did it. There's no doubt, but he's using information that wasn't true. A little bit of lying.
It's like a fuck you to the watcher in a way. I like the idea of setting a fire in the house to smoke the guy out literally, because that's what they do. And then you're right, he just walks out, doesn't burst through the door like that. It's
pathetic.
This is not a good episode.
Pathetic.
It's weak. It's weak sauce.
It is.
Yeah, the Norwich builder. It would have been better because I keep wanting to say Norwich, like the Dunwich Horror, or the Norwich whatever, something like that. So I keep wanting to go like all H.P. Lovecraft on it. And that would have been a better episode if the body was there, but it was really the thing that shall not be named in the wall, since a portal to something else, and then they made it like a part 2. That could have been an interesting crossover, because that's the only thing that would have saved this episode. Because I agree, out of all the episodes we've talked about, even though there was a very boring stretch in the last episode for me until things picked up, I'd have to say this is the worst episode so far. It's not one I would recommend anybody to watch. I don't think you should watch this one.
Yeah, no, I don't have really anything to say other than the unfortunate John Hector McFarlane. Other than him, this episode's a dud. God. I'm usually the guy that'll tell you like, oh no, this is good and this is good, and in this one it's really just unfortunate. It's unfortunate, just like Mr. McFarlane.
And the thing about him is it was interesting when they were doing the detective work about when they were looking at the they were looking like the will and the other important papers. Oh, it's a rich guy, and those are names of things that you may not know what they are, but that they existed back then is cool. And they're going, wait a minute, this seems really good, but the stuff in between seems like bullshit. And it's like, well, then he must have taken a train. So it's kind of like bumps, in the road while you're taking a train, and you're just writing bullshit in there because it's not going to be real anyway. That was kind of cool, but it didn't really lead anywhere. Like for us, we kind of forget about it because of what happens in the episode. So I like that part of it, and I like the fact that in a way that, although we don't get an explanation, this guy was just kind of a dick. He wanted to be an asshole to her and all that, so he construed this big thing out of it. But he was broke, so basically he was gifting the money to himself through a shell company and trying to be a dick to her at the same time. I appreciate what this supposed bad guy was trying to do more than I like the reveal or anything else. And unfortunately, it's just a couple of good ingredients that are sitting there on the shelf not being used correctly in this meal that we call the Norwich Builder. I am done, sir. Do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I have nothing else. It's just
be better, as some people say in the modern word.
Be better, good sir. Be better. Yes. All right,
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Norwich Builder. It's still a great show, despite this one episode not being that great. It's still a great show. It's definitely great. Check it out.
And you know what? The music in this episode, I will say that. The music in this episode particularly has a powerful moment in that somber admission of, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this one, Watson. I will need your moral support. The music that follows in that scene is great.
Yeah,
that's it.
No homoerotic kinship when people want to talk about two male leads having that's the real relationship in a movie or a television show. Oh, get the fuck out here! No, they're both competent kind of people. Nothing like that at all. But I do like how we've seen in the past few episodes, and maybe that was season 2 or whatever we want to call this, a choice from the writers to kind of flesh out and maybe give a little more screen time, a little more work to his partner there. Yeah, it's a bad episode. Good night now.
This was a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle adaptation, unfortunately.